Everybody, Dr. Karen Gaborik here, Superintendent of Fairbanks North Starborough School District, and happy to be coming back to you on a Facebook Live event. Give everybody a budget update and also some information on other items that are relevant right now this time in the school year. So hope everybody's doing well. I'm still stunned that I had to shovel this much snow this weekend. You know, you think you're done, and then Alaska just gives you one last dump to remind you that we live in Alaska. But it looks like warm temperatures coming our way, and looking forward to that, and hope everybody's enjoying lots of snow and warm weather to get out and play and be outside and do all the fun things that we love in Alaska. So, okay, let's talk about budget. Last week, the Board of Education met and made its final decisions about our recommended budget. So that's kind of the midway point of budget. The first budget is my proposal to the Board of Education. Then they spend a lot of time in work sessions and regular meetings having conversations about budget. They take public input, and this year, of course, we had limited public input in person, so almost all of it came via email and some of it via Zoom. We'll continue that process through the spring. Again, lots of opportunity for input between now and approved budget. The board will make their final decisions, we hope, on approved budget for next school year. End of May, early June is usually the target timeline. So I'll circle back to that and talk about some other important dates coming up between now and then. But the decisions that they made last week in recommended budget are based on some very sort of serious numbers as far as the school district goes. You know, we had this year we experienced a significant decrease in student enrollment. So you've heard me before talk about how we lost about 2,000 students. And so, you know, those numbers are driving our revenue for our budget for next year. They had a huge impact on budget this year, also driving budget for next year. So what's in the recommended budget? If you've been following along, there were $27 million worth of cuts in the proposed budget that I proposed to the Board of Education. Those cuts, with the exception of a couple very small adjustments, still exist in the now recommended budget. And that's, you know, those are just factors of, you know, again, significantly reduced revenue as a result of our drop in enrollment. And also we had to use fund balance this year, and so that's impacting what we have available to us for next year, which is we essentially have no fund balance allocated in next year's recommended budget. So all of the, and I've got kind of the summary document from proposed budget. You can find all of this online. The new recommended budget will be posted probably by the end of this week. You can find that as well, this information. All of the cuts that you know, we've been talking about in the media, that we've been talking about in school board meetings, those all still exist in the recommended budget. So I know there's been some conversation about federal relief funding and how we're spending our CARES funding. I'll talk about that in a minute. But what's most important for everybody to understand is that what's in the recommended budget using operations dollars, that means money from the state, money from the borough, those sort of things, all those cuts still exist. They're real. So let me just run through a couple of those so people remember. You know, we had reductions based on enrollment of 74 teachers in elementary. We also increased class size in elementary, and that was an additional reduction of teachers. In secondary, the same situation, reduction of teachers based on dropped enrollment and an increase in class size. We also had some other cuts, 3.0 career technical education teachers. We had a safety assistant, a reduction in size of staff at Star of the North. The larger list of reductions, again, of course, those are significantly certified staff reductions that I mostly, you know, just described. A larger list of reductions of ESSA employees and non-represented employees are on the district-wide list. And so 18.4 shift custodian positions, maintenance positions, elementary arts specialists, elementary instrumental music, kindergarten teaching assistants, and again, we didn't eliminate them, we just downsized the number of kindergarten teaching assistants we need, projected need based on enrollment and drop in enrollment. 2 district-wide assistant principals at the elementary level, 3.5 activities coordinators, special education teachers, special education support staff, after school coordinator positions, ELL positions, digital communications manager, computer technician, student support technician, training specialist. All of those cuts exist and are very real in the recommended budget, in our operating dollars. So it's important to remember. And so now I'm going to talk about the federal funding and the decisions the board made with regard to that, because what the board did is basically they're taking grant money, federal grant money, and they're replacing some of those positions. And so some of the positions that have been replaced, from that list are the high school activities coordinators. So those will now be grant-funded positions. We also have district-wide instrumental elementary music was replaced, not at full capacity, but for grades 5 and 6. And so now that's covered under federal relief funding. 2 of our facilities positions, an electrician and a grounds technician, have been replaced. We did not replace all of the custodians. We actually restored 11.4 shift custodian positions, and that number correlates exactly to the number of people that we have actually in those positions. The board did not restore vacancies in the custodial positions. So some of those vacancies are going to be no longer covered, either by operations or by federal funding. So that's kind of an overview. There are other things in the federal funding, CARES 2, so this is the second round of federal funding, that are specifically geared toward providing support to students during the summer. And so we're looking at expanded summer school programs. I want to be very clear that people understand this too. These are expanded special education summer school programs and expanded student support services summer school programs. So a couple of people have asked, is the entire district going to be able to attend summer school if you wanted to this year? And so the answer to that is no. We don't have these broad sort of district-wide expansive summer school programs. What we do have are our typical summer school programs that are just we're going to expand the parameters. So more of our special needs students will be eligible. So if you have questions about special needs, be sure to contact the special education department, and they'll be coming out with information soon. Student support services under our basic title programs, our various title programs, have offered opportunities to different students depending on how they may or may not qualify for some of those title program supports. So you think Title I, you think Migrant Ed, things like that. So again, some expanded opportunity there for students who, are in each of those categories. Also some expanded opportunities for our high school students specifically to make up credit. So if credit was lost this school year, we're going to have some summer school opportunities for kids who lost credit. And again, of course, we want to be sure that we help all of our high school students, if they've gotten off track, to get back on track and be ready for graduation, at the target date that they were originally hoping for. So that's kind of an update on the decisions that were made last week by the Board of Education. Some important dates coming up. Myself, President Tim Doran, Board President, and also our Chief Operations Officer, Andy DeGraw, will present to the Borough Assembly on April 15th. And so we'll be there, and we do this every year. We, give them an overview of, our revenue, of our cuts, and then basically that's when the district makes its official ask with regard to the local contribution. So that presentation will be coming up on April 15th, and there's been some conversation that the Board of Education may ask the borough for additional funds this year to help us with some of the operational gaps that we find that we still have. So then another kind of after that, so basically we spent the month of April waiting for the borough to go through their process and make their decisions about budget. By early mid-April, I believe, is the target date, the Borough Assembly will make their decisions regarding budget, and then we'll know what the local contribution is. Of course, all around the same time frame, we're also watching what's happening in Juneau. Right now, not seeing any significant changes. We're just watching what's happening. There's lots of conversation about some different things that may impact our revenue positively. But again, we'll just have to see how all that plays out. If you've been in Alaska a while, you know that education is usually part of the end game in Juneau, and so we may not, have definites in terms of what our final revenue from the state will be until, they're scheduled to end mid-April, but we'll see. It's always possible that they could go longer. I'm not anticipating that we'll have any decrease in funding from from the state, conversation about possible ways to provide supplements to school districts, so we'll just see how that plays out. And then after that, again, the board, after we know the state contribution, the local contribution, the board will come back together at the end of May and early June and make final decisions regarding the approved budget for next school year. So if you're interested and have been tracking the budget process, lots of opportunity between now and then to provide input to the board, again, through email. There's always an opportunity during regular board meetings, non-agenda items, you can provide input. And then once they start having that conversation again as part of a work session or as part of a regular meeting, of course, there'll be a very specific focus on budget, and you can provide input then as well. So then the other thing I just want to touch on with regard to federal relief funds is the third round, right? That was just approved by the Biden administration and Congress is coming. So that will be something that we think very strategically about and long term. And so the board, my team will put together recommendations in terms of how to very judiciously and carefully spend that money over the next, couple years. We'll present that to the board and probably have, a couple work sessions or, talk about that in a regular meeting. And then, the board will share with us what their priorities are in terms of looking at that. We're calling it CARES 3, but, the third round of federal funding, how we want to consider spending that money, over the next couple years. So more to come on that. It's possible that some of the positions that are still cuts maybe land on the CARES 3 list and that they may be subsidized by federal grant money. There are also other, some pretty significant issues that we need to look at in terms of transportation and nutrition services and things like that that are going to be a pretty high priority with regard to CARES 3. So no guarantees that any other positions will, be quote unquote saved by federal relief funding. One thing we do know is that at least 20% of the new federal relief funds that are coming, at least 20% has to be spent on research-based accommodations for, to help close learning gaps and provide social emotional support for students. Now, of course, my priority would be that we allocate even more toward that end and spread that support out over, not just the coming year, but a couple years as well. So we'll see how that all plays out, and lots more to come on that. So with that, people have been asking, well, what can we do, with regard to budget? I mean, how can we help? What would make a difference? What will make a difference is our student enrollment. So again, we, encourage, our current families who are with us, please, talk to friends. If you have friends whose kids, are thinking, well, I wasn't quite ready this year to come back to school, but I'm thinking I might in August. If they're thinking about that decision and they're feeling pretty certain about it, the sooner we know, the better. We have online enrollment opportunities. They can call the school. And so, do anything you can, to basically let us know if students are going to be coming back. And that way we can plan ahead. If we knew now, if we knew in May, that's a much better time in terms of hiring staff and making sure that schools have the right number of teachers in the building for the students that they're going to have. Of course, if more kids come to us in August that we didn't know about, we'll, make adjustments as we go. And so enrollment, getting our student enrollment back to the level it was is our highest priority at this point. So anything you can do to help with that would be terrific. Let's see. And so with that, I want to talk a little bit about the superintendent search. So the finalists. The Board of Education met Saturday and spent a great deal of time going through applications and talking about the superintendent finalists. So if you didn't know, I'm retiring on June 30, and so they're in the process of selecting a new superintendent. So the finalists are, and I believe there's a press release has gone out and probably more information coming out through the media, and we'll have it on our district website and things like that. There's bios for each of them. So we have Justin Barnes, who is currently in Anaconda, Montana, Vicki Cartwright, who is in Oshkosh Area School District in Wisconsin, and Corey Weiss, who is in the Copper River School District here in Alaska. So those are the three finalists. Again, watch the district website, more information on these candidates and also opportunities to participate in the process. So forums coming up. Yeah, and so I know the board and they're working with the Alaska School Boards Association is working hard to be sure to include the public. We had a survey that went out, right, to all stakeholders, got lots of feedback back. So if you're interested in that process, there'll be lots of opportunities for you to watch the process, participate, provide input and that sort of thing. So all those dates and events continue to get scheduled, they'll come up. So I believe the timeline in terms of making an announcement is going to be about mid-April, hopefully. I believe that's right. About mid-April, they'll have, the board will make their final decision, if everything progresses as they have scheduled right now. So, and then of course, depending, where the candidate is, then I'll do the best that I can to, work with the incoming superintendent and provide some transition time, between the two of us. And of course, with Zoom, it's just so much easier than it ever used to be. And so try to make a really clean handoff to the next superintendent so they can hit the ground running, and try to do everything I can to set them up for success and to take over here in Fairbanks. So looking forward to seeing how all that plays out. I want to talk about learning models next year. So you're aware that right now what we have, our options are in person, right? And so some of you have selected the in-person option. And then we have some kids who are doing remote, right? And some a little bit going back and forth there. So we've had some interesting dynamics there with some kids remote, in person. So we have teachers, God bless our teachers who are just working, to meet every kid and family's needs this year. So thank you so much. If you see a teacher, you can't hug them yet, but give them a big virtual hug, because they are just, right to the end on this. They're just giving it their all. So really trying to do everything they can to meet kids' needs, kids and families' needs. So, okay, so we've had in-person, we've had remote, we've had e-learning, which again has been really successful for some families. They've loved it, and we've had some good matches at all grade levels where it's working well, so that's exciting. And then we've had our best correspondence program. So the one thing that will not exist next year is the remote learning. So we'll have in-person, which is, sort of traditional school. We'll have e-learning for sure, and it's going to be an expanded e-learning program, because we have, quite a few families who, again, have enjoyed that option. It's worked well for them and their kids, so we'll have an expanded e-learning option. And then, of course, we'll have our best correspondence program. So, again, if you're thinking about your choices for next year, hopefully that will, provide a framework for you as you think that through. And then last on my list today, we have amazing students, right? And every once in a while, they receive sort of unexpected accolades and awards. So just yesterday, one of our Hutchinson High School students, Warner Mensch, was awarded $180,000. Okay, so $180,000 scholarship from the Naval Reserve Officer Training Corps. So really an amazing scholarship. So that means that while he's in college, Mr. Mensch will attend the Officer Candidate School in Quantico, Virginia, where he will learn how to lead United States Marines and how to inspire others. And then after that, he plans, I'm not quite sure how the timing on these things, but the college he's going to, he's been accepted to and plans to attend Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach, Florida. So, just what a wonderful award, what a wonderful scholarship for that student and their family. So huge kudos to Mr. Mensch. We look forward to seeing your success in the future. So congratulations. And that just happened. So that is really exciting. So that's all I have. Thank you, everybody, as always. Again, thank you for following the budget process. Thank you for being part of the school district. And as we've made changes, as COVID-19 has evolved, again, vaccinations are available. Please, lots of opportunities. Please sign up. I know the school district is putting out information, of course, Foundation Health Partners, Public Health, and we're all working closely together to help with that community effort. And we know that, many families, once vaccinations, more and more people become vaccinated, and then they feel comfortable, then, back in our buildings. So, and we'll just keep working, again, to finish out this year on a great note, a positive note. And I think everybody needs a break. So I think everybody's going to take a break in June and just rest for a minute. but with an eye toward gearing up, over the summer and getting ready for next year so that we kick off another great school year here in Fairbanks. So thank you so much. As always, if you have questions for myself, contact my office. If you have questions for the school board or input for the school board, contact them. And I'll be back, and we'll do a couple more Facebook Lives before the end of the school year, definitely on budget, and then any other hot topics that come up as we close out. So hope everybody enjoys the week, and like I said, the sun, and happy Easter coming up.